And welcome back to Talk of the Town. On the phone, joining me now is State Representative Craig Fishbein. Representative Fishbein, welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Hey, Steve, how are you? And I hope all is well with you and your family in the new year.
Everything is going well, and I hope the same for you. You recently introduced legislation that might hopefully address some of these issues with some of these underage offenders who are breaking the law repeatedly. And we'll get to the details on that in just a minute. But I think we need to kind of lay out why you did this and what is happening here in Connecticut and across the country with some of these numbers as far as crime rates. It seems to have just, we're trending in the wrong direction.
I agree. Those on the other side of the aisle will claim that this was always happening and just reporting is getting better, but I'll tell you, the complaints escalate on a weekly basis, and it's quite obvious to me that this is a problem that's out of control.
And there's a lot of discussion and a lot of analysis as to why this might be happening. A story written in the Hartford Courant by Jesse Leavenworth said, well, COVID-19, it's closed schools. But I think there's more to it than that, don't you?
Yes, and, one who says, well, schools are closed and therefore our children are stealing cars.
I could see this sort of being, I wouldn't blame it on the pandemic, but I mean, I think it's other issues such as this revolving door justice system we have, many of the restrictions that have been placed on police officers when it comes to trying to arrest and even catch some of these offenders. It's almost become a game, it seems, for many of these people who are doing this.
Yes, and unfortunately, some of these children are, when they're arrested, they're laughing. It's certainly not a laughing matter when you take somebody else's vehicle. We've had children killed as a result of high speed after stealing vehicles. We just had an incident about a month ago where a police officer in West Haven was run over by a 15-year-old who stole a vehicle and then apparently 2 days later stole another vehicle.
But
part of the problem is from the very outset of when these children are arrested, once, twice, three times, how those cases are treated. For the most part, they're kept in juvenile court, which is a sealed process. As opposed to adult court where, they got to see those other cases that are going on with people. And, you got to say at some point, is this where you want to end up?
So you have proposed legislation here to maybe change some of these policies here. What kind of give us an idea of what your legislation would do?
Yeah, there's actually three bills that I'm involved with having to do with this. The one that I proposed by myself, HB 5170, would make an automatic transfer upon the fourth arrest of a youth. Would automatically get transferred to adult court. And I know that I'm getting pushback on even that. The fourth arrest, I mean, that's just out of control at that point. Another of the bills that I'm involved with is 5362, and that also involves automatic transfer, but that's specifically on cases involving theft of motor vehicles. So you steal a car, you're going to adult court. And this bill would also change the police officer's pursuit policy. Right now, if a car is stolen, officer knows that the car is stolen, engages in some sort of following, they cannot pursue at high speed. This bill would allow an officer to do that. And the third one, which I think is more important, or really addresses a lot of these things, is the bill that the Republican caucus has put in through our leadership that I co-sponsored, and that's 5473. And that makes a lot of changes. If the youth is going to be released to their parents, then the youth has to be set up with a GPS system, a bracelet, so that we know if there's another incident, where that young man or young woman is in conjunction to that incident. Also lowering the bar on what's a serious juvenile repeat offender, once again, stealing cars, you're going to automatically become part of the adult system. Also, as you mentioned, family. Family is an important part here. That if a juvenile steals a car, then DCF has to get involved and look at what's going on here, and perhaps to provide some support to that family, outside of the court process, because, at the very end, we all come back to family and community, and perhaps that's another way to deal with this. But, we are, through the Judiciary Committee, we did raise the concept of doing something here. We're working on language. What I'm hearing, two other arguments from the other side are, well, all of these people are leaving their car doors open. Well, quite frankly, if I left my front door open and I came home and there's a youth sitting on my couch with his feet up on the cocktail table, I don't think that's appropriate. Just because I leave my doors open does not give somebody carte blanche to steal a vehicle.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, again, this idea that this is just based because of COVID-19 and lockdowns and things like that, I think there's a lot deeper issues here. And I go back to what was happening under Governor Malloy as well. He took great pride in reporting how they were, reducing the juvenile facility populations, closing down juvenile facilities. And yet we now have this increase in crime. Do you not see a connection here? If we're not going to do anything with these kids, like this current article talks about in Hartford back in November, the police arrested a 17-year-old kid for stealing a car twice in the space of 4.5 hours. This kid doesn't care about being arrested.
Now, on the other side, I think it was last week, Interim Commissioner Quiros of the Department of Corrections announced that they're going to be closing 2 prisons in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. You read these numbers and you see these increases in crime in Berlin and Rocky Hill and West Hartford and East Hartford and all over the state. And the reaction to that is to close prisons? That's just nuts. Well, I look at things as like a pendulum, and I see the pendulum having swung so far to one side that there's no surprise we're seeing this increase in crime, especially under with juveniles committing these crimes. The revolving door, the lack of any serious response to this is just kind of sending a message. As you said early on, they're laughing. They just know that they're just going to be let off with a slap on the wrist, and it's going to mean nothing, and their records are going to be sealed, and it's all just a game at this point, and it's getting people hurt, and it's getting people angry. So I hope a pendulum starts to swing back in the other direction, and we do realize we have an issue here in the state and across the country, and we have to take it seriously. I want to thank you again for joining me here on Talk of the Town. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.